Today's October 31st, 2013. We are in Dayton, Ohio. We are interviewing Herbert H. Burton. The organization we're working with, Stiver School for the Arts Veterans History Project. Mr. Burton served in the Korean War. He served in the U.S. Army, 25th Division, 24th Infantry Regiment. His highest rank was Sergeant First Class, and he served in Korea. Mr. Burton, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
What year was that?
1948.
Why did you join, and why did you pick that service branch?
That was my first choice, but I joined. I come from Gallipolis, Ohio, small town, and in those days there was no work available after you finished high school, so you almost had to leave town or Army. And most of us, young black fellas there, we chose the Army. We chose the service, rather. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them went into Navy, Marines, and things like this. But I enlisted into the Navy. And when I got my physical, I couldn't pass because I had flat feet. And then I tried the Army. And the Army accepted me with flat feet and all. And I ended up in the infantry.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Do you recall your first days in service?
Well, yes, vaguely, yes. Scared, and because that is my first time away from home. And I was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey. I left from Marietta, Ohio. That was the recruiting station, and they sent us to Fort Dix, New Jersey. Scared, I was scared, and meeting fellows from all over the country, well, in the Northeast area, and we had to get uniforms, shots, and things of this sort, and very apprehensive about all of this because you're just scared.
Can you tell me about your boot camp experience or any training that you went through those early years?
Yes, it was in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and we had to scrub floors, and in those days we didn't have individual rooms, we had barracks. And the barracks would, two-story barracks would hold about, I would say, 60 men. And you're all in this one, yes, in this one house and barracks. The laboratory and shower point was right there. And very large, and it was very hard in the morning to get cleaned up because you had to take turns with these with the faucets and the showers and things of this sort. And one thing I do remember that we always had to clean the barracks, and that was really a job because that had to be mopped almost daily, and cleanliness was one of the things that I thought about, and I enjoyed that we all were that way.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Yes, we had some tough instructors, and I'll tell you later on, they came to Korea after I got there. I hadn't seen them for a long time, but these instructors were very hard. We trained well, and we got some very good instructions of how to do things, rifles, cleanliness, and just getting along with the fellows around us, because you're in a close environment, and sometimes it was very difficult, but we did a great job in doing this.
How'd you get through it?
Real good. I mean, I passed my range test, the march, 25 miles march, and very difficult, but we did this. And some of the guys passed out. Yes, I still remember that. And my brother-in-law, I wasn't married to his sister at that time, but my brother-in-law and I went in together. And he, when we left boot camp, he was the chaplain's assistant. But they sent me to Japan, straight to Japan. A lot of the fellows stayed here in the States getting other training, because after you leave the camp, your boot camp, then you specialize in something. And they sent me to Japan.
What was your specialization then?
Well, when I first got to Japan, I was an office clerk. The reason I got the office clerk is my experience back in high school. When my fourth year in high school, senior in high school, I didn't need just so many credits, but I had to have a full schedule. So I took up typing. And, the only reason I took up typing was I looked into this room and all these girls, no boys, all girls. So I said, I want to take that class. So that is the reason I learned to type. And I look back on it and smile sometimes, because it has really, with the computers now, I can type with all fingers instead of a lot of people hunt and peck. And going back into the Army, and that is the reason I got the office job, because I could type.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that was a pretty good job, too.
So you left boot camp and they sent you to Japan.
Straight to Japan, right.
What year was that?
1948.
Okay.
3 months after boot camp.
All right.
Yes.
And you served from 1948 until?
52.
Okay. So arriving in Japan, what was that like?
Now that was another experience, because I hadn't been away from home, and meeting Japanese and the culture there, the farmland, and it was a different experience.
You went by ship?
Yes, I went in my day, back in 1948, that's about the only way that you could go, is ship. Very few planes at that time. So we went on a troop ship. And it was a couple thousand on the troop ship, yes. And going to Japan, I'd never been on a ship. It took us 12 days to go to Japan from San Francisco. And I was seasick 11. And that was the worst experience I think that I've ever had. Because you couldn't eat, you couldn't sleep, and everything that you ate didn't stay on your stomach. And I lost a lot of poundage going to Japan.
So then in Japan you worked in an office.
Right.
Okay.
That's when they assigned me to the 24th Infantry Regiment.
Okay.
And Service Company, 24th Infantry Regiment.
Can you describe your job?
Well, the job was making out reports for the, we had a captain, very variable. And now all of our officers were white. And Captain Variable was from the South, and a career man, and he was a very good officer. And my job was to make out all reports and do assignments, write letters, and just regular office, filing and things of this sort.
I'm going to back up for a minute.
Yes.
Because I know President Truman desegregated the military
Yes.
about that time. How's that fitting in with your time? I mean,
It didn't, no, it didn't affect us that much. I mean,
Okay.
because I was still in a segregated outfit.
Okay, so
Yes.
your boot camp was segregated.
Yes.
All right.
And my entire military life I was segregated until, I would say, when I returned to the States, about 3 months
Okay.
before
In 52.
yes,
Wow.
it was segregated. But
Right.
I enjoyed being with the fellas because they were all, most of them, I mean, most all of them were very nice people. And we did things together, and we had that camaraderie with each other. And I met one black fella in Japan well, he was in headquarters company, and I was in service company, and we were next door to each other. And he is still a friend of mine today.
Wow.
Yeah, and we become so close. He's the godfather of one of my children. And
Excellent.
when he would come, I'd take him to Gallipolis with me, and my mother would treat him just like her son, and until she died.
Wow.
Yes.
All right, so you're in Japan. Can you tell me, how did you get into Korea now? And what year did you arrive in Korea?
Okay, the war, I think, broke out in June 1950. And they got us all together and told us that we were going to do some cleanup duty in Korea, which we thought it'd probably be 2 or 3 months, and then we would come back to our Camp Gifu in Japan. But that didn't happen. And we went to Korea on Japanese ships because
Let's take a short break. Find
Okay.
out where that. Okay, we're back from a short break, and you wanted to tell me a story.
yes, when I was in boot camp, I'm from, as I stated, from Gallipolis, Ohio, and on weekends we always got a weekend pass, and I had to stay in camp every weekend because it was too far for me to catch the bus, because the only way that we traveled then is bus and train. And I couldn't go to Gallipolis and get back to Fort Dix, New Jersey within 3 days. So I befriended a fellow from New York City, and he noticed that I was staying there at Camp Dix. And he said, "Why don't you go home with me?" And I did. And when I went to his house, his mother accepted me, and just like her son, and stayed at her house free of charge. She fed us good, and we were friends until they passed a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Yes, and his mother was she was my second mother, and we
Nice.
met in service. Yes,
Kept that friendship. That's excellent.
yes.
All right. To go back before our break, you were talking about getting into Korea,
Yes.
and you said that it was only supposed to be a couple months. You thought,
A few,
and then,
3 months, 3 months tour, because we was just going over there and do some cleanup duty and go back to Japan. But it lasted 14 months.
Wow.
Yes, and because when we got to Japan, the fighting was it was hot and heavy at that time, and there was a first to go to Japan. I think it was 24th Division, but they were the Koreans pushed them back to Busan. Busan is an area, I think it's 25 miles radius, and they pushed them back, and that's where we landed at Busan. And we stayed there trying to fight our way out of Busan. to go north. And that is when General MacArthur took the Marines into Incheon, and they went above and then fought their way back, and then we could break out and head north.
Okay. Now, in Korea, your job assignment changed?
Well, no, yes, I was in Korea. You're everything.
Okay.
Yes, but I was still a clerk at that time. But you did you drove trucks. You were on a machine gun because you want to protect each other. Mm-hmm. And yeah, your job changed.
Okay. Did you see combat?
Yes, yes. I mean, it was combat all around us.
Okay.
Yes.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
Yes, yes. There's a lot of casualties in our unit, but more on the line companies. Mm-hmm. The line companies is for fighting only. I mean, that's what they did. They trained back in Japan, which we trained, but that was really their job. And I have to tell you a story of a friend of mine. We grew up together in Gallipolis, and him and I were there in Korea together, and we would see each other. He was in a different unit than I, and we couldn't buy anything with our money when we were paid, so we saved it. When I would go back to the rear area, he would give me his money, and I would buy money orders for him so he can send back to the States, and vice versa. He would do it for me. And one day, I was going back, and he gave me $500.
Wow.
And that was a lot of money. And to get money orders, which I did. And when I got back, he was dead.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was. They were on a patrol one night, and they got ambushed, and he was in a sleeping bag, and they burned him up. Yeah, and when I kept those money orders the entire time I was in Korea. When I got back home in Gallipolis, Ohio, I gave them to his mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me any other memorable experiences while over in Korea?
It was cold in Korea, and we were in tents. I mean, pup tents. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times our food was ice, and it was hard to heat, and it was just a bad experience. And getting a bath was something over there, because we couldn't, there was no showers or anything like that. But once a month, they would bring a shower point, which is a large tent. They would have heated water so that we could at least take a shower once a month. Mm-hmm. In the summertime, we took baths in streams and things of this sort.
Right.
Mm.
Wow. Were you a prisoner of war?
No, I was lucky I wasn't. But the enemy was the Koreans were very close. And then when the Chinese came into, it was, I mean, you had to watch your back at all times. While we were there, heading north, I was in North Korea.
Okay.
Yeah, across the 38th.
Where are they crossing again?
Across the 38th. A lot of people have never been to North. I've been to North Korea. And heading into North Korea, the scenery was much prettier, because you would see giant trees, nice roads, and things of this sort. Because in the South, I was very surprised because we didn't see any tall trees below the 30th parallel. Because during the Second World War and before, the Japanese invaded Korea, and they took all the timber to take back to Japan.
Wow.
And we never saw too many trees large trees in below the 38th parallel. It's probably much different now. And one of the experience, we were bivouacked in a, we always, I don't know why, in a riverbed. We were always, I mean, when we took a rest, we went to a riverbed and parked the trucks and everything there. But we noticed on the side of one of the mountains a large tree. And you know this was very unusual. And then some of the guys got on the trucks, and there's 50 caliber machine guns. We shot up there and the tree moved. Yeah. Yeah. And during the daytime in Korea, a lot of refugees would come through. And you let you search them and send them through. Because we usually slept in the day and stayed awake at night.
Right.
Because you almost had to turn your guns around because you know you're going to get hit from the rear, because a lot of those refugees there, they slip guns through and everything. You're going to get hit from the rear.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Were you injured at all?
No. I was very fortunate I wasn't injured. Because the Koreans, most of the night, they had these Piper Cubs almost, the small planes, and they would just come over, and I think someone just kicked a bomb out, and it would land in 2 or 3 bombs, and then they would leave, or we shoot at them, and they would leave.
Wow.
And we were bombed another time, and I was in the rear area where my friend was, and we were bombed got bombed in the rear area. But they're usually just small planes, like Piper Cubs. Wow.
Now, how far into North Korean territory would you say you went? I mean, were you close to the Chinese border?
Yes, we were.
Wow.
Yes, we were close to the Chinese border. Yeah, we could see them. And you get on a mountain, you can see them coming across the river.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And that's when MacArthur told us that we would be home by Christmas. And because we were doing so well, we were going so far into North Korea.
Right.
And no, that didn't happen. That's when the Chinese came into the war.
Now, during this entire time, how were you staying in touch with your family back here in Ohio?
Well, you wrote a letter, and you'd give it to one of the clerks, the mail clerks, and they would try to get it back. And I stayed in contact pretty good. You didn't get mail that often, and when you did get a mail or a package, I mean, especially with the package, you let all the guys enjoy, because my mother would send me cookies and canned goods, and I mean small meats in cans, and we would share with each other because we were a very close unit.
What was the food like? Did you try the food in Japan?
Yeah, the food in Japan was very good. I think we ate all the chickens in Japan because, yeah, it was very good. And I tried the Japanese food too, and I enjoyed the Japanese food. In Japan, it was, anytime you go into a Japanese house, you had to take off your shoes because the floors were heated. That's how they heat the house, underneath the floors.
Interesting.
Yes, they didn't have furnaces and things like that. No, everything was heated under the floor. That's why you had to take off your shoes, and it was very comfortable.
How about in Korea? Did you try the food in Korea?
No, because we were moving so fast, and it was torn up pretty good. And no, I didn't try any of the food in Korea. Kimchi.
How was the food that the Army supplied?
The Army, I guess I was just used to it. Anything you got there, it was good, because you were hungry. And then you had some of the food that your parents had sent you, or some of the relatives have sent you, And with that, I mean, the food wasn't bad. And we had, anytime they could cook, the unit, that the mess hall unit, they would fix a meal if they could.
Right.
But most of the time they couldn't. But it was a pleasure getting a hot meal, or because we had to heat our own food any way we could.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Yes, our supply unit was good. Yes, we had and good truck drivers, and the service, the transportation was very good. And yes, we got the supplies in, but a lot of times maybe you couldn't get to the supplies, and then you had to do whatever you could to satisfy yourself.
Now, you said that it was cold in Korea.
It was very cold.
You had adequate
Yes.
clothing for
Yes,
the winters?
Yes, we had good clothing, and I kept pretty warm. And just at times, you just had to put a lot of clothes on, or yes, I did.
Did you feel pressure or stress?
You know, I look back at that, and I don't think so. I mean, maybe I was, but I was 20, 19, 20. You know, I didn't have any stress. You know, you could jump over tall buildings. You know, but
It's funny you say that. Many of the veterans I've talked to, they've said, "Oh, I didn't feel stressed until I had a family. That's when I started feeling
yeah,
stressed."
and you know, when I hear the military now, they're stressed out, and you know, I can't comprehend that because I don't think any of us were, but there was stress. I'll tell you another story. Another friend of mine, I mean, we grew up, he was from Columbus, and he said, he would come back to my unit, and he said, "I'm going home." I said, "How in the devil are you going home? You got the Yellow Sea, and you have the Pacific Ocean." And he said, "I'm going home because I just can't take it anymore." And I did get a letter from him a couple months later, and he was in Columbus, Ohio, and I still don't know how he did it. And there was, so I would say there was stress, but I feel that I can take a lot. And
Did you do anything special for good luck?
no.
No.
No, yes, pray. Yeah, you pray. And I think I read the Bible through many times while I was there. And it strengthens you. And I grew up in a religious family, household. And I think all of this prepared me for what I could face in the future. And it has, as of this day, the same way.
How did people entertain themselves when you did have some downtime, when you were back behind the line? What did you do?
A lot of guys gambled, told jokes, wrote home,
I didn't understand the
told jokes.
told jokes. Okay, okay.
I write letters. That's one thing that's a must. Anytime you had downtime, you wrote a letter. And just conversation, show the guys your girlfriend picture and things of this sort, the manly thing.
Did you ever get a chance to see any entertainers?
Yes, I saw Bob Hope, Marilyn Maxwell. I think it was Maxwell. She toured with Bob Hope. I did see that, but they would bring entertainment in when they could. we would go back to the rear area, and Bob Hope was out there quite a lot. So you know that's a long time ago.
Besides Korea and Japan, did you travel any other locations overseas?
No, I did not. Korea and Japan. After Korea, I was ready to come back to the States.
What did you think of your officers and your fellow soldiers?
As you notice, I stayed in touch with some of them. They were great people, and it was good, since I was from a small town, to meet other people around the country. And we had a great friendship. And my brother was there with me in Korea. He was there in Japan with me too. He married a Japanese. Yes.
Really?
Uh-huh. He passed away a couple of years ago, and I still keep in contact with his wife, and she lives in Tacoma, Washington.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So how many were in your family?
There were 5 of us.
Okay.
There were 6 of us. There were 6 of us, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My brother, he was 16 years younger than I. Yeah, he was late arrival. But there were 5 of us, and there were 3 of us left, and my sister is 95.
Okay.
And I have a brother here in Dayton. He's 88, and I'm 85.
Wow.
Yes.
So only 2 of you were in service?
No, 3 of us.
3
no,
of you?
4 of us.
4.
All the boys.
All the boys?
All the boys were in service, yes.
Wow.
4 of us.
2 in Korea at the same time?
Yeah, me and I'm the youngest. I was, no, I had one younger than I, but I mean, the 5.
Right.
I was the youngest, and he was the oldest, and he had to take care of his little brother.
Wow.
Yeah, he and I in Japan, I saw him quite a lot. We were in different areas, and we would meet on weekends, and in Korea, he would always find me because he was a career soldier.
Okay.
And he was in the Second World War.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And he would always find me. He was in a engineering company. Now we had to wait for him to fly from Seattle, Washington, bring a bridge so we could cross a river. Yes, and he was there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where he wanted to find me. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
Did you keep a diary?
No, I didn't.
No.
No. Well, no, you just didn't have time.
Right.
I mean, you really didn't have time for this.
Going back to your family being over there, how was your mother with having 2 sons, her oldest and youngest, pretty much? I guess she was occupied with her youngest
son, yes.
But still, she has 2 of her children over in Korea during this conflict.
Well, she didn't. My mother was a very strong woman, and she accepted it. It was just a way of life then. Mm-hmm. And she knew that if my oldest brother was close to me, he would take care of me. Yes.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Yes, I ended in Pennsylvania. I've forgotten the camp in Pennsylvania. That's where I was discharged from. And I would be getting back to integration. When I came back to the States, I was sent to Fort Benning, Georgia. And it was a paratrooper outfit there. But I was never in the paratroopers. Mm-hmm. But I was assigned to that unit. And then after that, I'd only stayed there a couple of months. And then I was about ready to get discharged. So they sent me to Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. And that is where I was discharged from. And I spent 3 months there. And I was telling you, that is the first time that I was ever integrated.
Okay.
In the South, I mean, I have used the colored in the restrooms. I've drank out of colored water fountains. I sat on the back of the bus. I mean, I was in uniform too.
Mm-hmm. How did that feel? I mean,
Well, I mean, it was a way of life.
right.
Yeah.
But in Pennsylvania, then, when you experienced,
Yeah, it was a different experience but I experienced a lot of being around white because in Gallipolis, as growing up, I went to an all-black school. I mean, grade school, to 8th grade. After the 8th grade, then you integrated to Academy High School. And in my class in 1947, there were only three blacks in the class of 78.
wow.
Yes. And myself and a young lady and one of my brother-in-laws. And I mean, it didn't affect me that much, but it was a new experience.
How about when you were in Japan and Korea? How did the Japanese and the Koreans view you?
Well,
Because
I've heard
you
a
were
lot of
segregated.
I've heard a lot of stories. No, I mean, if they're around our camp or any camp that has all blacks, I mean, you were accepted.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe somewhere else you weren't accepted that well. But yeah, I mean, the guys had Japanese girlfriends, and we went out into the towns, and we could mingle without being afraid. But the Japanese experience was a good experience. Yes.
Did you have much interaction with the Korean
No.
people?
No, I didn't. It was different. In Japan, you were occupying Japan at
Right.
the time, and it's a different situation. I mean, you could sit down and talk and things like that. But when we went to Korea, we didn't mingle that much because you were on the move most of the time, and you was trying to cover yourself.
Okay. Going back to leaving your service, what did you do in the days and weeks after your service ended?
I was out of my brother-in-law. We married sisters. He was in service with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was in service. He married. I mean, it was a double ceremony. We
Okay.
married sisters. I was still in service, and he had just gotten out. And since we were from a small town, we weren't going back to Gallipolis because there were no jobs. And both my sister and sister-in-law, I mean, my wife and her sister, during the Korean War, they wanted secretaries to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So they went outside to get them, and they went to Gallipolis, and my wife and her sister, they hired them to come to Wright-Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
They were here in Dayton, Ohio. So after my brother-in-law got out of service, he applied for the post office. And when I got out, 3 days, I was out 3 days, and I was working at the post office. We did almost everything together, all of our life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you ever go back to any more schooling, take advantage of the VA loan?
No, I didn't take...
Or GI Bill?
No,
I'm sorry,
I didn't.
GI Bill.
I should have, because I bought a house back in 52, 54. And no, I did. But schooling, I have attended most of the colleges around here because in the post office, I was always in school because Sinclair, Wright State, or a UD, you took classes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said with all the classes I have taken, I could have had a college degree. And I took classes until I retired. And I'm still taking classes now at Sinclair.
Excellent.
Yes.
So you went on to work at the post office. What was your job?
Well, I started out as a letter carrier. And after being a letter carrier for about 25 years, I decided to go into management. And then I was a manager the rest of my time.
Wow. Did you join any veterans organizations?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
But I do support them.
Have you ever attended any reunions
Veterans
with your,
unit?
yeah,
No. But they still have them, the 24th Infantry Regiment, but I doubt if I would know anyone now.
yeah.
But my friend in Chattanooga, as I was telling you, we befriended in Japan. He attended one a few years ago, which was, I think was in Texas. But they still have the reunions, but I have no desire to go because I probably wouldn't know anyone. I've outlived all of my friends.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yes, it has. It started with the Korean War. First, the wars before that, you fought to win. But starting with the Korean War, you could only go so far. And that is the reason MacArthur wanted to go into China. But President Truman brought him back to the States, and you could only go so far.
Right.
And ever since then, with the Iraq, Vietnam, it's the same way. You could only go so far. And I don't think that I would enjoy being that you could only go to so far. I mean, you fight to win. If you're not going to fight to win, forget it.
Right.
And that's my feeling. And with these youngsters, if something isn't going right in service, they can call their congressman. We didn't have that privilege to call. They put a foot someplace. If you even thought about calling or a congressman. And that's the reason I think that we were hardened for the action. And I really, you look back and I really appreciate, I had discipline at home, but I had more discipline, I had a lot more discipline in service, and I think that has gotten me through life, by being disciplined.
It's getting to my next question. How did your service and experience affect your life?
Yeah, discipline.
Discipline?
Yes, yes. And another thing, I mean, I'm so glad, when I went into the post office, my service time continued. I mean, I didn't have a break since 1948.
Right.
And I spent 41 years I had enough sick leave to have another year of retirement. I had 41 years of
Wow.
retirement.
Besides the few friends that you mentioned, I mean, did you make some good friends
Yes.
in the service?
Yes.
And stayed in touch with them over the years?
Yes, but then, as I've stated, most of my friends passed, or you just lose contact with them. But for years, yes, I stayed in touch with a lot of my friends, and which I really appreciate. They're from all over the country. And I was visiting my brother in Fort Lewis, Washington. He retired in Tacoma and from Fort Lewis. And I was in a restaurant at the base at Fort Lewis, and someone from my old unit came over in and remembered me, and which made me feel very good. And I knew him well when we were in Japan together, in Korea.
Wow. Have you seen the Korean War Memorial? Have you been to Washington, D.C.?
No, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I saw that, and I saw this one out on Riverside.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes, because I was looking for one of my best friends. He lived in the South, but he was in the Vietnam War, and he was killed in Vietnam. But I tried to look for his name, but I didn't find it.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, is there anything that you'd like to add that we have not covered in this interview? Anything that you can think
No,
of?
I think you've covered quite a lot, and I really appreciate being a vet. And you know, when a fellow, I mean anyone, will know that you have been in service, say thanks for your service. They don't even hardly know you, and it makes you feel good that you did do something in life that people will remember you for. But that makes me feel good when, in the airport, if I'm wearing that jacket, thanks, said, were you in Army service? I did, oh yes. Said, thanks for your service. And it makes you feel good to be a vet.
Do you think that's changed a bit? Did you experience that in the 50s and the 60s
No,
at all?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
It's been in later years. Yes,
Okay.
and you get it more now than I've ever. Anytime a person knows that you're a vet, they usually say thank you. I have a nephew in San Diego, and every Veterans Day or any day pertaining to a vet, he will call and say thanks for your service. Yes.
Excellent. Well, let me tell you, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for agreeing to do this interview too.
Thank you.